We'll go ahead and call the January 13th, 2020 redevelopment meeting to order. Can we get a roll call vote?
Director Brian Messmore.
Here.
President Richard Richardson.
Present.
Vice President Lenny Fryman.
Present.
Secretary Kevin Schaefer.
Present.
Member April Fritsch.
Here.
Member Brian Johnson.
Present.
School Board Member Brian Jansen is absent. And City Attorney Del Weldon.
Present.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. If everybody's had time to review the meeting minutes of the previous meeting, I'll go ahead and take a motion to accept those meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Turn it over to Director Messmore. Do you have any announcements for us this evening, sir?
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the first meeting of the Redevelopment Commission here in 2020. And we are all looking forward to a productive 2020 and beyond. Just as a general reminder, the essential duties of the Redevelopment Commission is to investigate, survey, and study areas that need redevelopment, study and combat the factors that create the need for redevelopment, and on occasion select and acquire areas for redevelopment or for economic development purposes. That being said, this evening, I'm recommending to the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission that we undertake an assessment of our current progress with the primary goal of sharpening our plan for 2020 and beyond. Elements of the assessment would include an evaluation of the current projects that are in process. What has went well and what would we do different? We would take a look at current and new proposals and work through a new process for project development. We would assess the availability of properties, both public and private, throughout the city. We would combine those efforts with a market analysis and review in combination with the Hyatt Palma study. And in combination with this previous four, we would apply a budget analysis to understand our capacity for capital investments moving forward. In this process, we will be considering urban planning expertise and also financial expertise to support local fiscal impact analysis on projects that we invest in. Ultimately, we hope to have a focused business attraction, creating competition, and ultimately an increase in private investment. I yield back to the President.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Sounds like a strategic plan is going to be looked at or sought after, and I think that's exactly what the City of Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission needs moving forward. So appreciate the comment on that, Director Messmore. If there are no other announcements, we'll go ahead and have our Clerk of Finances give us a financial report.
As of January 7th, 2020, the balance for redevelopment is $2,204,141.22. And after monies promised towards projects, it's $231,422.09.
Thank you, Ms. Brookbank. Appreciate that. Mr. Messmore, do we have any new business to discuss?
I have no new business to present.
We'll move on to old business. We have under Director Messmore, we'll begin with firehouse development.
Thank you. We will have in our audience, we have Mike Rezzo and Bob Rezzo. They are working on the firehouse, and they will provide an update on the project with regards to construction and the timeline. I talked to Mike, and he has invited all board members to feel welcome for an on-site visit. And you can call me, and we'll meet up over there with Mike and take a good look at what's going on. I will yield to Mr. Rezzo, and for the board, there would be no action required this evening.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Just first, Mike Rezzo, Rezzo Engineering, just to introduce myself to the new board. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share. We're real excited Obviously, this project started under the previous board, and you guys will be able to see this through to its completion. I just wanted to take a moment. I promise to be brief. I know you got a lot on the agenda, but just kind of give you an idea where we're at, and also re-extend that offer that in the next, between the next month, I would love to see each one of you and down there, give you a personal tour of what we're doing. It's getting really close. I think we're looking at about February, maybe early March for grand opening. So we're in the final stretch, and we're very proud of what's happening down there, and you should be as well. So I invite you to come down. My father, Bob, he just handed out some pictures, some photographs, kind of show you where we're at on some of the finishes. The inside is looking stellar. We're about 98% complete on framing. Flooring is complete, as you can see in the photos. Probably 75% with the interior paint. So the colors are really starting to come together the way we want it. Our contractors are currently working on the rough ends so we can start closing in some walls. Probably about 70% on that. Today they started installing the grease interceptor, which is the last of our utilities. Well, got some storm, I shouldn't say it's the last, to go out the back. And patio windows and the entrance door to what will be the patio are going to be installed this week. Kitchen equipment and walk-in cooler I expect to be delivered by the end of the month. And as I mentioned, we're really wrapping up on some of the finishes in the dining area, so it's starting to look like what we intended to look like. That's really all I had this evening, is just to kind of let you know that we appreciate everything that you've done for us, and we hope that you're pleased with what we're doing with this development. So unless you have any questions, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks
Thank you.
good.
Thank you, Mike.
We'll move on to the Walnut Square Townhouses. I'll turn that over to Brian as well. Everybody had received the information in your packets, so we've all had time to review that. Mr. Messmore, can you give us some direction?
Yes, Ms. Rybolt is here in the audience this evening if there are any questions. The board has had their requests in their packets and had an opportunity to review the material. We have looked into this request and have been advised by legal that we are not responsible for these expenses. And again, Ms. Rybold is here if the board has any questions. I yield back to the president for action or discussion.
Is there any discussion on this matter, or do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we decide what we want to do here.
Is there a, do you want to put that, can you say that again?
I just think we just need to make a motion to how we're gonna do this, take care of it. I may not be saying it right, so what do I need?
Do you have
That's
a,
okay.
Nervous.
do you have a motion to make for it? Do you have a recommendation for the board for it?
I make a recommendation that we vote on what we've got here to see where we're gonna go with this.
Yeah, I think we want to do that. Is there a recommendation, one way that a board member might have to go on this matter?
Yeah, I'll make a recommendation. I've read through the packet, and I was actually part of the last meeting with Regina when she presented. Here's the only problem that I have. This happened 9-10 years ago, and unfortunately, I don't think that I can make an educated guess on this, on which way we should go. Legal advises us one way, and I know you guys feel that you should probably, the way it's written in the contract. I've looked at it. The drawings are kind of confusing to me, but at this point, I don't think we make a decision on it. I think that I think we need to deny it at this point.
There's a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'll abstain from this vote.
Abstain. Kelly, can we get a roll call vote?
Yes, member
Aye.
Member Lenny Brennan.
Aye.
Member Kevin Schaefer has abstained. Member Brian Johnson.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. I will vote aye as well. Motion does carry. Move on to the Union Hall development. Mr.
Yes.
Messmore.
Yes, thank you. I believe Justin and Natalie are here to present this evening. Just a little bit of background. The Knopperts have presented to the previous LRC, and I will also mention that they responded to the initial RFP many months ago with a full-blown business plan and all the required information that would be necessary to move forward in that case. However, at this time, they weren't successful there, so they are back this evening again, but this discussion pertains to the Union Hall. So I will yield to the Knopperts.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Messmore. Thank you to Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I'm Natalie Noppert.
I'm Justin Albert.
We're very pleased to be here tonight. So congratulations to each of you as new and returning members to the Redevelopment Commission. So we're excited for what you guys can do for our city. Additionally, along with us, Ms. Andrea Ewan, our attorney, is here with us tonight as well. So we've worked on numerous real estate deals in the past with her. Her experience and knowledge base as it relates to contracts, real estate, and legal matters is especially helpful, as she is additionally the board attorney to the Dearborn County Redevelopment Commission. So we welcome her as well. We are here tonight to request a motion to proceed toward drafting a redevelopment agreement for Brewster & Pour Espresso and Tap to acquire the Union Hall building. We, as Brewster & Pour Espresso and Tap, fall into the category of a specialty eatery, focusing on coffee, craft, and community. So we currently operate in the coffee and community spheres, and we're looking to expand into the craft beer segment. This only makes sense if we're moving into a brick and mortar type of location. And we believe having a local hotspot for espresso-based coffees, accessible eats, and craft beer will pair very nicely with the Civic Park and the existing and future businesses and restaurants that may develop there. Unique specialty eateries are actually booming in the food industry, and within that category, specialty beverages are the fastest growing segment. We mentioned some more extensive national and regional data in your packets, but having been in business for 7 years as a mobile and portable coffee caterer and a pop-up event eatery, we believe our business plans for this specific space could bring some specific benefits to the city as well. So we want to offer a family-friendly food and beverage destination. We're looking at extended hours of operation. We have products that will transition throughout the day and the week. We offer some flexibility because of a primary counter service style of eatery. And we also think it will provide an additional destination spot for a variety of situations. Brewster & Pour is not new to the search to acquire a brick and mortar space in downtown Lawrenceburg. Since its conceptions, its owners have engaged in various negotiations for properties in downtown Lawrenceburg. Beginning 7 years ago and continuing to this day, we have pursued various options, including the purchase and acquisition of a previous food and beverage business, and also discussing terms for multiple historic locations for purchase on Walnut Street, Center Street, High Street, and Short Street. We've been approached on numerous occasions to work in collaboration with existing businesses and even to open our site in brand new developments. We've been pursued by business owners and folks in surrounding cities and towns to consider their potential locations, such as in Greendale, Hidden Valley, Harrison, Aurora. Despite various offers and numerous potential sites, we continue to desire a downtown Lawrenceburg location because we place value on this city and its residents. So this pursuit of a brick and mortar space has led us to be involved with the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission for over 3 years now, as we have pursued options on 2 specific buildings held by the Redevelopment Commission. Again, we're not new to this in downtown, but throughout all of these previous negotiations and options, we've weighed the cost and benefits of each potential site, its location, the terms of those agreements. We remain pretty consistent in our approach to determine what we think will provide the best opportunity for our business's success. So essentially, this is what we're the partnership that we're interested in pursuing with you guys. We're requesting the opportunity to acquire the Union Hall property, specifically through ownership, and the ability to work with this redevelopment commission to address this property's problem of inaccessibility. The primary limitation to this property remains its lack of ADA access for public use. Without this access to the entry floor and the second floor, the Union Hall remains unusable as a public venue. Additionally, this property sits on its lot lines, and thereby it does not allow any exterior expanse to address the accessibility issues for any purchaser of this property. Redevelopment could address this issue in such a way that it benefits the whole Civic Park block and any future developments to even the adjoining Scudder Thomas lot. So as part of the redevelopment agreement that we're seeking, we'd be requesting this commission to assist in providing that external accessibility to all the levels of the Union Hall property. You have standing before you a builder and developer and business owners that would like to fully rehabilitate the Union Hall property that has sat on the redevelopment's books for years as an empty, zero tax base and non-income producing property. So there is mutual advantage in working together during this phase of feasibility and engineering for the property. For us, it makes sense that we would want to be involved with the development of infrastructure of the building. And for you, it makes sense to work with a developer that wants to fully renovate this building. We would like to request a motion of intent by this commission to proceed exclusively with Brewster and Poor for negotiations toward a renovation and acquisition of this property. This would allow us to meet more extensively with you to negotiate the terms of that redevelopment agreement to see if we can come to mutually agreeable terms. So if you have reason to believe that that interests you or you think we can work together, we would love to proceed with you. Thank you guys very much. We're going to yield back to the chairman so we can answer any questions or concerns this board may have.
I'd like to make a recommendation. I read your proposal prior to the meeting and went back over quite a few of the redevelopment videos. But moving forward, I would like to suggest as this redevelopment commission that we don't review any proposals from seating council members, simply as an ethics issue. I think we'll keep everything on an even keel going forward. My thoughts, I just think it opens up a lot of questions.
Mr. Chairman, may we respond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your concern. It's certainly something we have addressed with previous commission members. We understand that concern. That's actually why we brought Ms. Ewan here. Ms. Ewan, would we be allowed to have her also respond as well? We've previously provided information regarding the legal statutes, the Indiana Code, that discusses what is and isn't a conflict of interest. It's something we've presented before. We have her expertise here. If we would allow her to present any of her knowledge base and experience in that way.
If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask me, but there is Indiana code that allows a public servant to enter into agreement with a commission that would allow them through conflict of interest waivers to receive public funds. The whole point of the redevelopment commission is for you guys to create a tax base and create income producing places that make jobs. Obviously, by restricting your public servants, you limit who you're going to ever get to serve on those commission boards, and you're limiting who you're going to get as an elected official if they can't also do business in the place that they're serving. This is why the statute allows for these types of situations. I do believe that you also work closely, as we do, with Barnes and Thornburg. So I would say that they've probably dealt with it. You can defer to them and ask them that question, but I imagine that most of these documents are already in existence and we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel for a conflict of interest. So if you have any direct questions about that situation, I just encourage you to highly consider somebody who is invested in your community, who is elected by the citizens, seems pretty fair that they would be interested in making a business succeed here more than someone that isn't.
Thank you, appreciate that. Natalie, Justin, we appreciate your time as well. And I do apologize, Board Member Fritsch, was that in the form of a motion?
That was
You
a
had made that?
recommendation.
So do we have a second to the recommendation that Board Member Fritsch has brought to the table?
It needs to be a motion.
It needs to be made a motion.
Do we have a motion at this point? Or do we have more discussion?
I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
If there's any foreseeable chance that you want to discuss this more extensively, we are certainly available to do that if it would take having some form of an executive session where we can consult with attorneys, you can review the code, you can review precedent that's been set. Again, I'll reiterate that Justin does not sit on the Redevelopment Commission intentionally, so that even as a sitting council member, he can still pursue business ventures in the city and hope to work with the Redevelopment Commission while not sitting on the Redevelopment Commission, which would create an obvious conflict of interest. So if there's any room for further discussion, we'd be happy to do that, even if that's at another time and location.
Okay, so I can go ahead and make the motion then, based on my recommendation.
We
So
have a
I'll make
motion
the
based on the
motion.
recommendation not to move forward based on issues raised by Board Member Fritsch. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
We get a roll call vote.
Member April Fritsch,
Aye.
Member Lenny Fryman,
Aye.
Member Kevin Schaefer,
Nay.
Member Brian Johnson,
Aye.
and then Richard Richardson.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Move on to the next order of old business. We have a athletic club contract. I believe there's some changing with the wording to the contract. Mr. Messmore, can you direct our attention to that?
Yeah, we had an original approval to enter into an agreement with Mr. Knoll for approximately 15% of a approximately, I could dig through here, $298,000 project. So our portion would have been $44,747.10. Since that time, Mr. Knoll has is requesting to change the design and in use of some of that property and identify some change in payment terms. But I would yield to counsel for additional details from a legal tongue.
Yes, sir, Mr. Messmer. Pleased as the Redevelopment Commission, Mike Knoll and the Athletic Club have requested that an amendment be made to the development agreement that was drafted and approved by the prior commission. And the change would be it would not be in the amount to be contributed, but rather than the requirement that his entire expenditure be made of $253,566.90 before our contribution of $44,747.10 is made. What he is proposing or requesting is that an amendment be made so that our contribution be made available to him in the form of a construction account only after a certificate of occupancy is obtained for the first phase of the project. The project doesn't change either, other than there will not be a second floor. This will only be a first floor project. So the plans are the same in that they are the retrofitting the athletic club to provide for retail space that individual retail businesses can rent on the front end of the building, and then the side and the back of the building will be available to rent for industrial space for trucks and workshops. And then the middle of the athletic club will have storage units for any businesses or individuals to rent. And then the gym will remain open. It will be the third on the right side if you're looking at the front of the building, and that gym will have extended hours moving forward. And so the request of the athletic club is for the board to vote to approve a change in the contract to allow for our contribution to be made available following certificate of occupancy for phase 1 of the construction project.
Is there any discussion from the board?
And how many phases are there with this?
There are 2 phases. So the first phase ends after there's a firewall built, kind of sealing off the retail part of the building from the rest of the building. And so that would be
So what
considered
he's
phase
wanting,
1.
he's wanting part of the money before he gets to the second phase of the building. Is that what you're saying?
He wants the money to be made available after phase 1 is completely done. So he would pay for phase 1 completely, obtain a certificate of occupancy, and then those
And then
our
start phase
contribution-
2.
Yes, and then he wants our contribution to be made available when he starts phase 2. That's their request. And Mike couldn't be here, but he asked me to deliver his request to the board.
I'd like to make a motion that we leave the contract as the original contract with the original agreement. And was that even signed, the original one?
It has not been executed, no.
Have a motion on the floor to leave the contract as stated in the original contract. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll abstain from this vote.
Can we get a roll call vote?
Yes. Member April Fitch,
Aye.
Lenny Fryman,
Aye.
Member Kevin Schaefer,
Abstain.
Member Brian Johnson,
Aye.
and back to President Richard Richardson.
Aye. Motion does carry. And Mr. Messmore, we'll have a Main Street report.
Yes, you'll find that on a monthly basis, we are provided an update on the activities in Main Street, and Michelle is here this evening to introduce herself to the board, entertain any questions, and I will yield to Michelle.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Cohn, and this is the first time I've ever had to lift a microphone up. Like, it feels so tall right now. I'm the new director of Main Street, and Main Street works with the Redevelopment Commission to implement 6 grant programs. So you'll see these spreadsheets probably every time that you meet. The most popular of the programs are the residential paint and commercial paint grants. After that, we've got sign and awning and blade signs. There's Help Businesses, and they make Main Street look amazing. And the last 2 work with our Economic Development Committee, which are the small business, existing and new business action grants. The total funds available are $204,000 annually, and last year we used $163,000 of that money. So the grants are well utilized, and Main Street's really thankful that you trust us to implement the grant funds, and we look forward to working together. Any questions?
Thanks.
I yield the floor to Director Messmore.
I would just add, in addition to Michelle, we use the ISBDC to vet mostly the new and existing business action grants, and that's Jenny Fowler from the ISBDC. I am asking for her to come and introduce herself at the next meeting, give you an overview of what she accomplishes and has accomplished, and that we would continue to financially support her as we have in the past. I yield back to the president.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments concerning the Main Street grant report? All right. Well, Michelle, we thank you for coming. One of the things that Brian and I had talked about was the amount of dollars that go back into the community, public versus private. We do very well. You know, could you expand on that a little bit, Brian, if you'd like to?
Yeah. Some of the grants are 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, so they report differently in terms of the private dollars returned to the community. But on the new and existing business action grant, rounding off, the public contributed about $40,000 for a $115,000 private investment. So, and what that says is that our dollars are working for us and encouraging private development. So, like I said, I think it's a great program, and we should continue to support. And not only that, look for ways to enhance what we do. Times change out there, and we should be, at least on an annual basis, somewhat adaptive to the changing conditions and things that we're understanding about what it takes to for small business to exist in our downtown.
Thank you, Director. Appreciate that feedback. Now we'll have approval of claims from the board. We've all had these in our packets. We've reviewed these. Do we have a motion to move forward with approving the claims?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll have our comments from the audience section. We do want to limit that just due to time constraints to 5 minutes per person if we would moving forward. But do we have any audience comments tonight? Mr. Seymour.
Have a nice, short, quick, polite one. Contractor, I have some lots in town, and I want to know how the voting members feel about their housing project. That wasn't mentioned tonight about new home development.
My recommendation would continue to support that full commitment.
Okay.
We have over $100,000 remaining in that account today.
All right, and then that's your recommendation, and how, I've said this lots and lots of times. How's the voting members feel about that? Same way?
Could somebody give us a rundown of how that program looks?
Okay, this is administered by Main Street as well. We work together. However, it is the first-time home buyer, and
not first-time home buyer.
New home.
Okay.
New home purchase program, and in the event a home is built on a lot for the $180,000, the program commits 10% up to $35,000 for that new home. So it goes to the home.
Ceiling.
It goes to the home owner, not the developer.
That's right.
Okay.
Reason why I was asking is because when a contractor goes into his bank and applies for the loan and everything, that's a big part of them backing us. And I want to be able to walk into the bank knowing that I'm not telling my banker anything that's not true. So that did make me, that answers my questions. The only other question I had was, and I don't know all the facts, but what if Mr. Noppert never needed any money? If I'm a councilman sitting in the seat, which I was, and I wanted to do a project and I wanted to buy a redevelopment building off of you, but I wasn't asking for any money at that point, and we in the audience don't know the deal. You guys might know the deal. I'm not sure, but I'm not so sure. I definitely agree with your point if he was wanting money, but I don't know that I agree with your point if he was wanting to do the project. That's the only thing I'd like to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
Thank you.
Do appreciate it. Now, do we have any other, Michelle?
Can we just go back to the new home purchase program? 'Cause it's a really
Can you come up to the podium for us?
really great program. But I would like to possibly suggest maybe putting some parameters on the program so that you can encourage the type of home building in downtown you'd like to see. So typically the homes I've seen in the past have been smaller and they sell really quickly. And if you want to maybe encourage more family type homes downtown, we might want to put some parameters on it. So just some food for thought moving forward.
So the only parameter currently is that it needs to be over 180,000?
No.
It just needs to be in the downtown area.
Oh,
And
okay.
it needs, yeah.
That cap raised last year, isn't that when it?
Yeah.
Yes.
They have to meet the streetscape.
Yeah.
Okay.
Per home to what's on the
Right.
street. That's the way it used to be in the beginning. It's still that way.
It is. When we evaluate submittals, we ask that they fit the character of the neighborhood and do the things that make it look like it belongs. And I believe to
and
date
they do.
we've
The
had
houses
pretty good
do look
success
like they
with that.
belong, but you may want to consider encouraging maybe larger homes that might support more families moving downtown.
Yeah,
Maybe not exclusively, but just if you wanted to encourage specific types of development.
So would raising the limit to up to 35,000 achieve part of that?
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, you can build a great house. They just don't tend to be building larger houses. They tend to be building smaller houses, and they sell really quickly, and they're very cute. But just a thought.
Yeah.
And I agree, and that's part of it.
Very, very large, too. You can't, unless you get a double wide, otherwise you're sort of.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. Mr. Abbott, if you want to come up to the podium.
Anthony Abbott. What I would do maybe is get with the realtors, because right now these lots are just going to builders, but I know there's a lot of buyers out there that the realtors don't even know about this program, to let the buyers know, hey, you can get up to $35,000 for your down payment on these houses if you build a new house here. So if you spread the word out to your realtors, you'll be getting more people in that might have bigger families that want to build a 2-story house or something. So, and just, expand it to all the realtors.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility with this program, and I think that it sounds like it's something that you guys are going to be really tuned into. We made some tweaks over the last 4 years just based on feedback and raise the cap, but there's also an opportunity to take a look at, the materials, for example, or the landscaping, different parameters, and looking at, since we've had such success, I think it's a good opportunity for you guys to consider, what can you do for the program as a whole, and you'll have every opportunity and every option to make changes to that program. But it's a great program.
Have they got a bottom line or top line to this? I mean, 180, where's it got to start at?
It's 10% up to $35,000.
So if they spent $350,000 on their house, they would get $35,000
What
back.
if they spent 100,000 on their
Then
home?
they would get 10,000.
10,000.
But what we're seeing in the market, we had ourselves at a bit of a paradigm. We said 10% up to 15,000, and we were putting a limit on construction to about 150,000. As soon as we lifted the limit to 35,000, things are rolling in at anywhere between 169 and 250.
That's good.
So I think if I'm correct, that was Mr. Seymour's suggestion.
Can I make a couple more comments? Just quick.
No, it's only 5:30.
Go ahead, Paul.
It's totally in control of you guys' hands. You got new people here, so I guess my point would be is when you get a lot, people bring you in plans. They'll bring you in floor plan, they'll bring you in plans, and if you don't like it, tell them. So you need to come back with something a little better. We're looking for something a little better. There's nothing wrong with you guys saying that. That's the way I think that, Tony was a starter of this thing back in '09 or '08. And that's what we did. And I do think in raising things up, we should be getting a little better home. So that's up to you guys. That's your choice. If you want to say no, hey, we want to deal with you, but we're not happy with this house, feel free to do it. You're not going to insult any contractors. I think everybody down here is pretty happy about building these homes, and they're going to do whatever you guys want them to do.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
May I just,
No, go ahead, Director.
just to add, Mr. Seymour, and not speaking for or against, but the Union Hall, the Brewster and Poor proposal included support from the Redevelopment Commission on construction of some sort of ADA accessible unit or on the side. So there would have been some, just to be clear about that. Thank you.
Sir, you got something to say?
Mr. A.J. Waltz?
I just want to say something on the housing project for the new build and stuff. That's one of the things that brought me to Lawrenceburg. My wife and I took advantage of that. We were living in an apartment down here. We really wanted to be more part of the community. And actually, I met Paul for the first time at a council meeting then, and he said, I have a house that's being built, and you should come look at it. And we did that, and having that 10% down, we had 10% down, being able to buy out the PMI for the mortgage was the only way we afforded the house. So we were very thankful for that. And when we tell people about that program going on, everybody's shocked to know about it. And I feel like it's a great program that lacks public knowledge. And it would be nice if there was a way, like on your website, that you could see the lots that are available, that the city owns, and that this project's going on. I find a lot of people don't know about it, and they're shocked when I tell them, yeah, we live in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. We got our lot for $1 or $10, whatever it was, and we got 10% to build on it. So we took advantage of that. I moved my grandma from Harrison down here. At the age of 80, she built a new house down here in Lawrenceburg. She loves it. And she built a house that's about $300,000 down here. So I think it's a great way. It's a great way to increase property value. We saw that when we built. I actually ended up buying another property in Lawrenceburg, 2 other properties, and we've been able to sell those for more money because of these new houses being built. So I think it's a great thing for the economy down here and for being a property owner to increase property value. The other thing that I would like to see is maybe some increased properties that are available. I know in the past, redevelopment commissions have been very aggressive at buying properties that needed to be knocked down. And there's properties that have been skipped over or deals have fallen through with past administrations that maybe this new board can go back and rekindle those and purchase some properties, because there's properties that definitely bring down our value. One comes to mind in particular that can definitely help increase the value of the properties and maybe help increase the interest in the program. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are we able to list a property on the MLS, or do we need to go through a bidding process?
It'll be a bidding process.
Builder has to go on the MLS.
I'm sorry?
A realtor would have to list it on MLS.
I understand that part, but are we as the commission able to do that? To engage a realtor to get it listed?
Yes.
Maybe. I mean, we would
Because
have
I
to
think that's
follow
the best
some of
way to get it out to the public. If it's on our website, great idea, AJ, but the only people that are going to see it are the ones that go on the website. If we get it on the MLS, the whole world can see it with a couple clicks.
If it's $10 or $100, what realtor wants to sell it can get $2 or $3 commission.
You know, I don't know if it's going to show up on Zillow. It's going to show up everywhere. I don't know if we really need it for the realtor to sell it. We just need it for it to be out in the public.
There's probably a solution to that. That's a good idea.
The board used to have realtors.
This redevelopment board did?
But I think what AJ's saying is right. That's the issue.
When Brittany and I took the realtor board, we never passed it, but one of the things that I found interesting was, as a person who's passed the bar in Indiana, you have the right to sell and license real estate. So maybe you guys can utilize the attorney to list it in the MLS, because Dell can legally sell real estate in the state of Indiana.
And there are ways to advertise it, use the same kind of software engines or tools to get it out there, but not necessarily have to engage a realtor. So this is a great discussion, and I'll get some answers to some of these questions. But it's a great program. What Tony and Paul and AJ have said are right on. I mean, this is a program that can really go a lot of different ways, and you guys will be able to take it there.
Thank you, everybody. Is there any additional comments from the audience? All right. I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.